was just past midnight, and I was driving home from a long shift at the diner. The rural roads of upstate New York were pitch black, the kind of dark where your headlights barely cut through the void. My old Honda Civic rattled along, the radio static crackling because there's no signal out here. I was exhausted, my eyes heavy, but I just wanted to get home, crawl into bed, and forget the day. My GPS was my only guide, its robotic voice telling me to turn left in 500 feet. I trusted it blindly. Big mistake. Out of nowhere, the GPS chimed. Turn right onto unmarked road. I frowned. Unmarked road? I didn't see anything but trees and gravel. The screen flickered, showing a jagged red line veering off into nowhere. I slowed down, peering into the darkness. Sure enough, there was a dirt path, barely wide enough for my car, snaking into the woods. I hesitated, but I was too tired to think straight. Fine, I muttered, turning the wheel. The path was rough, my car bouncing over rocks and roots. The trees closed in, branches scraping the sides like fingernails. The GPS screen went blank, then flashed. Recalculating over and over, I cursed under my breath and tried to turn around, but the path was too narrow. Then, with a sickening thud, my car lurched and stopped. The engine sputtered and died. I turned the key. Nothing. Dead silence, except for the faint ticking of the cooling engine. I checked my phone. No signal. Of course, I was in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by dense forest with no idea where I was. I called roadside assistance anyway, and by some miracle, the call went through. The operator said a tow truck would be there in about an hour. An hour. I locked the doors, leaned back, and tried to stay calm. The woods were eerily quiet. No crickets, no owls, just a heavy stillness that made my skin crawl. Then I heard it. A crunch, like a footstep on dry leaves. My head snapped up, eyes darting to the windows. Nothing but darkness. Another crunch, closer this time, from the passenger side. My heart started pounding. I fumbled for my phone, turning on the flashlight and shining it out the window. The beam caught twisted branches and underbrush, but nothing else. I told myself it was an animal, a deer maybe. But then the footsteps came again, slow and deliberate, circling the car. I froze, gripping the steering wheel. The steps stopped right behind the trunk. I didn't dare look back. My breath hitched as I heard it again, crunch, moving to the driver's side. I clutched my phone, ready to call 911, but the signal was gone. The footsteps paused, and then a shadow moved just beyond the headlight's reach. I squinted, trying to make it out, when a face appeared at my window. I yelped, nearly dropping my phone. It was a man, gaunt and worn, his face pale and streaked with dirt. His eyes were wild, sunken, like he hadn't slept in days. He pressed his hands against the glass, his knuckles raw and bloody. "Please," he rasped, his voice muffled but desperate. "I need your help. Please open up." My heart was hammering so hard I thought it'd burst. "Who are you?" I shouted, not moving an inch. "I'm lost," he said, his voice cracking. "I've been out here for days. I need help. Please." He pounded on the window, harder this time, leaving smudges of dirt and blood. His eyes locked onto mine, pleading, but something about them felt off, like they were too wide, too empty. "Stay back!" I yelled, my voice shaking. I called for help. "They're coming." He didn't listen. He kept pounding, his fists thudding against the glass. "Open the door. I'm not going to hurt you. I just need to get out of here." His voice was frantic, but there was something else in it, a low guttural edge that made my stomach twist. I fumbled with my phone, trying to redial roadside assistance, but the screen was frozen. The man stopped pounding and pressed his face against the window, his breath fogging the glass. "They're out there," he whispered, his eyes darting to the trees. "They're watching." "Who?" I croaked, my throat dry. He didn't answer. He just stared, his lips trembling. Then, without warning, he stumbled back, his head whipping around like he heard something. I followed his gaze, but the woods were empty. He muttered something I couldn't hear and bolted toward the trees, his figure swallowed by the darkness. I sat there, shaking, my hands clenched around the steering wheel. The silence was worse now, heavy and suffocating. I kept my eyes on the spot where he disappeared, expecting him to come back. Minutes dragged by, maybe 10, maybe 20. My phone buzzed, startling me. The tow truck driver. "I'm 5 minutes out," he said. "You okay?" I didn't know how to answer. When the tow truck's headlights finally cut through the trees, I nearly cried with relief. The driver, a burly guy named Mike, hooked up my car and asked what happened. I told him about the man, the footsteps, the pounding. He frowned, shining his flashlight into the woods. "Ain't nobody out here," he said. "You sure you saw someone?" I nodded, but doubt crept in. Had I imagined it? The smudges on my window were gone, like they'd never been there. Mike towed my car to the shop, and I got a ride home. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak in my house sounded like footsteps. Every shadow looked like that man's face. The next day, I searched online for missing persons in the area. Nothing matched his description. But I found a forum post about that stretch of road. Other drivers saying their GPS glitched, leading them down unmarked paths. One guy swore he saw a figure in the woods, watching him. He said it felt like the forest itself was alive, waiting. I don't drive that route anymore. I stick to main roads, even if it takes longer. But sometimes when I'm alone at night, I hear it, a faint crunch, like footsteps on dry leaves, just outside my window.
Before going to the next story, if you like this video, please press the bell icon and do like, share this video and subscribe this channel to get more scary and disturbing videos. Thank you.
I kept the bedroom dark when I went to sleep on a Tuesday night in mid-September. Around 2:13 a.m., I remember the time because the red numbers on my alarm clock glowed against the wall. My beagle Reggie lifted his head from the foot of the bed. At first, he only sniffed the air, ears tilting forward. Then, a deep rumble rose from his throat. Reggie rarely growls in the house. We live in a single-story ranch on a quiet street where the loudest sound at night is usually a passing motorcycle. I whispered for him to relax. He ignored me, eyes fixed on the seam where the bedroom door met the frame. The growl swelled until it vibrated the mattress. I thought maybe a raccoon was moving along the gutter outside. I placed a hand on his back, felt the muscles twitch, and decided it was safer to let him investigate later. I shushed him again. The growl faded only when dawn filtered through the curtains. The next night, Reggie woke me at the same time, 2:13 a.m., with the same low warning. This time, he stood up, his tail stiff, his nose aimed at the door. My heart was hammering, but I told myself it had to be a coincidence. Dogs hear so many things we can't. Still, the repetition unsettled me enough to keep the bedside lamp on until sunrise. Night 3 made it impossible to dismiss. Reggie's internal alarm went off right on schedule. Before I could reach for the light, his bark cracked the silence. I slipped out of bed, grabbed the aluminum flashlight I keep on the table, and pressed my ear to the door. I heard nothing. No wind, no scuffle, no distant car. Yet the dog's body trembled against my leg like a coiled spring. I pushed the door open 2 inches. Reggie squeezed through the gap and padded down the hall. His nails clicked softly on the laminate floor, then stopped at the entrance to the living room. I followed, flashlight beam bobbing. Reggie stood frozen, shoulders lowered, gaze locked on the far right corner where the TV stand meets the wall. That corner was empty, just a stack of magazines and the coat closet door. I swung the light back and forth. Nothing moved. I was about to exhale when Reggie let out a sharp bark. My eyes dropped to the floor, and I saw it. A single footprint, left heel to right toe, pressed into the light-colored laminate as though someone had walked through wet soil and stepped inside. The print looked fresh, grains of dirt scattered around the edges. Adrenaline flooded my limbs. I backed toward the hallway while keeping the light on the footprint. It didn't make sense. All windows were locked. The sliding door had a bar in its track. I hurried Reggie into the bedroom, slammed the door, and shoved a chair under the knob. Then I dialed 911. I had never called the police before. My voice shook while I explained that an intruder might be inside. The dispatcher told me to remain in the room, stay on the line, and wait for officers. 10 endless minutes crawled by, broken only by Reggie's soft whines and my breathing. When the officers arrived, they announced themselves, then searched room by room. I heard closet doors bang open and shut, attic hatch pulled down, garage light flicked on. Eventually, a knock sounded at my door. I removed the chair, and 2 patrolmen entered. One checked the footprint, the other asked questions. They found no sign of forced entry. They dusted the dirt sample into a plastic bag and walked the perimeter of the house, but saw no matching prints outside. Reggie stayed glued to my calf, still growling whenever an officer moved toward the living room corner. The police left around 4 a.m., advising me to install a camera and to call again if anything else happened. I didn't sleep. I sat on the bed with the flashlight upright like a candle, listening to every tick of the clock. Over the next day, I bought a motion-activated camera and pointed it at the living room. I vacuumed and mopped the entire floor so no speck of dirt remained. That night, I tried to think rationally. I locked every point of entry twice, but anxiety made me keep my shoes on in bed. At 2:13 a.m., Reggie's growl erupted once more. My stomach dropped. The camera pinged my phone a second later. Motion detected. Living room. I tapped the alert. The live feed was dark but not empty. In the upper left corner, a faint silhouette drifted across the frame, almost the height of a person, before slipping out of view. The feed froze for 3 seconds, then resumed, showing only furniture. I didn't open the door this time. I called 911 again, voice barely above a whisper. The dispatcher recognized my address before I finished spelling it. Officers arrived faster, but the result was the same. No intruder, no damage, no explanation. Just a second dirt footprint, this one closer to the hallway. The police suggested I might be sleepwalking or staging a hoax. I knew what I had seen on the camera, even if the recorded clip now showed static where the silhouette had been. I forwarded the file anyway, though it looked corrupted. I spent the next day at a hardware store buying deadbolts, window sensors, and extra lighting. A technician helped me reset the camera system. By sunset, every door glinted with new steel, and Reggie wore a GPS tag in case something scared him outside. That night, dread pooled in my chest as the clock neared 2:13. Reggie slept beside me, chest rising and falling. I stared at the ceiling. When the minute hand touched the mark, silence held. 10 seconds, 20, 30, no growl. Relief began to spread, but then the motion alert chimed louder than ever. My phone screen showed the living room camera. The feed shook as if the camera itself were being handled. It tilted toward the hallway until the lens filled with Reggie's empty water bowl. Then the image went black. Reggie sprang up, teeth bared. The growl came at full force, deeper than before. But it came from behind us, not at the door. He faced the bedroom closet. A thud sounded inside the closet as though something heavy had settled. I grabbed the flashlight and my phone, moved slowly to the door, and twisted the knob. Reggie lunged first. I followed, light sweeping, only to find stacked boxes and hanging coats. No one. Yet there, on the carpeted floor of the closet, lay another dirt footprint, toes pointing toward the corner of the bedroom where I slept. I backed out, heart slamming, and locked myself in the bathroom, the only room with a solid core door and no windows. Reggie squeezed in after me. I called the police a third time and told them I wasn't leaving the bathroom until daylight, and multiple units arrived. They searched for 2 hours, even bringing a canine unit. Nothing. They admitted they had no explanation for the footprints or the malfunctioning camera. I filed an official report and left the house that morning to stay with my sister across town. I hired a security company to install a full alarm network. They found no faulty wiring, no blind spots. They did, however, lift several more partial footprints near vents and under the crawl space entrance. I refuse to spend another night there until I know whose prints those are and how they keep appearing without a sound.